Today, I want to talk about what Dan Patrick had to say about the Big Ten, which is more of what we've all thought, but there's some details that have kind of changed, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, I want to talk about Dan Patrick, who gave an update on the Big Ten and where it stands in relation to fall football on his radio show at about 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. What we have learned is that you're basically split down the middle of teams that want to play football in the fall and teams that do not. You'll remember that last week he said that they were shooting for an October 10th start date so that they could get in a 10-game schedule and be eligible for the college football playoff. This as teams like Ohio State and Michigan continue to practice and really, we thought, want to play football, but there's a rub there. And you've had some pushback from the medical community inside the Big Ten that does not want to see fall football played, and this is exacerbated by Kevin Warren's silence on the matter since last speaking on it, which was basically last week, in which we found news on Monday of last week that Kevin Warren, one, had signed an affidavit that there was a vote, that it was 11-3, along with the University of Northwestern's president, and we found that the president of the United States had reached out to Kevin Warren to ask what would it have to happen to get fall football on the menu, and that meeting took place last Tuesday. As of Monday, according to Patrick, you only have 8 teams that want to play football. Rutgers is out. Maryland is out. Michigan and Michigan State are out, along with Illinois and Northwestern. That means that Ohio State, Nebraska, Iowa, Wisconsin, basically teams that you would expect to be good at football, Minnesota, Purdue, all want to play football. But that is difficult to get done in a Big Ten conference that is reliant on each one of its members. Now, I understand there is a group of fans that think it's just easy to break off those 8 teams that want to play football, kind of like the Catholic 7 in the Big East, and form your own conference. But it's really not that simple because the collective signed these contracts with television revenue, and you can't just tear them up without incurring a tremendous legal battle where, quite frankly, billions of dollars are at stake at a time when so many universities are already crippled in their financial income. And that's to say nothing of their athletic programs, which sometimes operate apart, sometimes do not. But when your athletic success is directly tied to your university enrollment, like so many big-time Power 5 football schools are, you understand why some schools are going to be much more enthusiastic about playing football than others. Northwestern is not really a football school, even as it's in the Big Ten. It's known for being a journalism school, which is ridiculous to me. But the MBA program apparently is really great as well with the business school. Matter of fact, Jason Wright, the new NFL president for the Washington football team, graduated from Northwestern and went to business school at Northwestern. That's not what you would say about Ohio State, even as they have academic success and lots of academic achievements to point to, is football at Ohio State. And we can see how football is a direct signal of just how good your student body is going to be. When Alabama got good in the Nick Saban era, their ACT scores went up through the roof. 60% of University of Alabama's student body comes from outside of the state, which means, one, you're getting out-of-state tuition, which sometimes is double in-state tuition, and you're getting kids that want to come to the University of Alabama because they want to be around a successful football program. The same is true at the University of Oklahoma. Same is true when I was at the University of Tulsa. ACT scores were around 26 to 28 when Todd Graham and Steve Cragthorpe had that thing humming right along. Now the University of Tulsa is very much in a bad way, but that doesn't make it any different than the rest of the country, except the University of Tulsa was in a bad way before the coronavirus. Getting back to the Big Ten, what has become clear is the agendas of each one of these universities, from their coaches to their presidents, is different. They all want different things. And because they cannot come to some consensus, and because they already had a vote, you're not likely to see so many opinions change, especially publicly. Now, January football seems to be on the menu for the Pac-12. They're going to head toward January with their start date. They talked about Thanksgiving to try to give some people some hope, but Larry Scott has basically walked that back and said, we've got further testing. We're going to do more testing. We're shooting for January kick date. That's what I think is going to happen with the Big Ten, because the closer we get to October 10th, the less likely it feels like it is going to happen. The more likely scenario is you'll have players continue to opt out. You'll have the upper echelon of college football elites say, I'm going to get ready for the NFL draft. I'm going to sign with an agent that's going to pay me a little bit of money up front to sign with him, and I'm going to try to make all this money in the NFL as the NFL kicks off in just 2 days, September 10th. I don't see an out here for the Big Ten, as sorry as that is to say. I only see that we're not going to come to any sort of conclusion about this until November, December, when you actually have to start making plans for how to play football. And it's not as if the football that we have seen thus far has been good. We've all been happy to see it. But watching BYU stomp a mud hole in Navy and walk it dry is not exactly how I envision Labor Day going for me, especially in a stadium that was empty. Now, I enjoyed hearing the crowd because it's reminding me like a 2A high school football game in Oklahoma where you can hear everybody and you can hear everything. But BYU overmatched the Navy team that wasn't very good. BYU also has like 23-year-old freshmen and 27-year-old seniors. I'm sure that their teenage children were happy to see them play ball. But that ain't what we sign up for, right? In college football, we sign up to see Clemson play Ohio State, right? To see Clemson play LSU, to see Alabama play LSU, see Oklahoma play Texas, to see Ohio State and play Michigan. What we saw so far is Arkansas State, Memphis, is North Texas versus Houston Baptist, is SMU versus Texas, for which you can't expect to walk onto Wacker Field without a big stick and expect to score. Even as the most famous alumna from from Texas State University is Alexis, Texas. And people forget that, the student union is named after Lyndon Baines Johnson, who actually accomplished a great deal. So rounding out this conversation about the Big Ten, I think that you're going to see some moving and shaking when the conference contracts come up. You may see some new realignment that just leaves Nebraska, Iowa, Ohio State, maybe even Michigan sour on what a Big Ten conference can do for them. And I think you would hear even louder chatter about this with realignment if they weren't making as much money as they were making. But since they generated like $962 billion in the fiscal year 2018, it's really difficult to want to leave them as long as you're making money. But the Ohio State and Nebraska brands were jumping into the Big 12 to make it a 12-team league again. Or you can add 4 teams to make it like a Super 14, right? And you get a Big 12 of 14 teams. So you get Ohio State, Michigan, Michigan State, and Nebraska. That could be really interesting. And because the Big 12 has shown that it's going to play football come hell or high water, I think that's on the table. All right, that's it for me. Doses.